Welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Let's cue the intro. This is the #1 podcast to learn marketing strategies for your board game. Whether you're just starting on your first game or an experienced designer, you've come to the right place. My name is Nalin, and let's talk marketing for your game. Hi everyone, welcome to the Board Game Marketing Podcast. Today we are really lucky to have Jonny Vance on the show, and I'm so excited for everything that he has to share with us today. So Jonny, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. So firstly, I'd really love it if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and also about the project before we get into the details.
Yeah. So background, I'm Jonny. I work at a marketing agency called Harmon Brothers. We're the guys who did the Poopery, Squatty Potty ads, a few other internet ads, just kind of funny, long form video. Let's see. I guess I'm kind of new to this space, to the gaming space. I've been sort of a passive gamer my whole life. Nothing like more complicated than Settlers of Catan for me. Like it's pretty much party games, bananagram, stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of a brief bit about my background. And then you asked about the game as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We'd love to kind of introduce everyone to the game. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I just kind of about a year ago got this itch to do kind of this entrepreneurial itch to do something because I've helped a lot of companies grow, but I've never had a product of my own. And so I looked at my weird resume and just, I've written poop jokes for a living for a while. There's not much you can do with that. But I thought, wait, maybe I can make a card game. Maybe I can make it, infuse some of my weird poop joke skills into this game. And that was the epiphany I had about a year ago. And, and then from there, it's been just like refining over and over and over, until we got, a game that was really fun to play and funny to kind of play as well.
That's awesome. I really love that at the start of your campaign, you had that quote. It was from your mom, I think. It said, like, you can't tell poop jokes for a living. Here we are.
Yeah, joke's on you, Mom.
Yeah, so I really also like that you kind of turned what you were doing already as kind of a person working in like a marketing agency and things like that, or advertising agency, and it's kind of your passion for writing jokes, poop jokes and things like that, and just putting it together into this just completely new endeavor. How did you kind of take that leap?
For me, I don't know. I mean, I think I was really naive. I think being naive in the beginning is very helpful. Because I thought, a card game, how hard could that be? I could get it out in like a couple months or whatever. Kickstarter, how hard could that be? So I don't know. I feel like it was a bunch of small leaps, but it was fun along the way. I think my motivation shifted as I went along. Like first was like, oh, let's build a company. And second was like, oh man, this is really fun. I enjoy the process. I love game testing. That was something, like game design was like a new hobby. It's just so fun. To be able to do the game design and the game testing side of it. And so gradually as it came along, it was like, man, I put so much time and money into this. It's easier to kind of finish it than to drop it. And so, but it's been a fulfilling, crappy process for me.
Well, yeah, that's really great to hear that, the being naive just kind of got you into the world, and now it's kind of opened new doors to crazy opportunities for you.
Yeah.
All right. So I think this is a great segue into just kind of really asking you what you did to, help with marketing for your campaign. So let's kind of focus on that pre-launch part first. What kind of things did you do in terms of marketing to prepare for your campaign?
Yeah. And this is where your guidance has really helped me with the Facebook group. So before the campaign even started, you'd been preaching like give them, a free print and play download, offer that and then collect emails. And so, in marketing, we do this all the time. It's, you have a lead funnel where you give away something for free and then you can upsell them on the next sort of thing. And I had never really thought about it that way in the board game industry. And so we had our print and play design. So we just put it, built the funnel. I hadn't built the funnel before. I've worked a lot with people who have, but, so for me, it was a lot of like just drag and drop sort of stuff with this software called ClickFunnels, and just figuring that out. And so that was our strategy before was collect emails. So spend ads, on Facebook, drive ads, showing product images or images from the game to a landing page where people can get the print and play for free if they give me their email. And then we were able, by the time we launched our Kickstarter, we had about 3,000 emails.
Wow.
So it was like pretty great way to start. A lot of people had interest and were just like really excited, even though they downloaded the print and play. A lot of them were really excited for the actual physical game. So so that was one strategy I did. And then, I'd say combined with that strategy, it surprised me that a lot of game designers don't really test their messaging on Facebook, and maybe a lot of them don't really know the importance of doing it. But I thought I knew what was gonna like sell the game the best in terms of messaging, but I was way off base. I think I was using like language like a tasteful game about poop or something. I mean, I thought it was funny, but so many people were like, "Oh, that's disgusting. Never say that." But I was able to test into messaging. It's a card game for immature people, and it like the share rate was crazy, and the comments were crazy, and people were tagging their immature friends, and it made poop safe. And so that was a huge thing that I'd recommend doing. Like, if you can spend just a little bit of money just to see what gets people to click on your ad before the campaign, you can hone in that messaging and you can integrate it into your game. And then, I'll say one more thing. The last thing that I think is really important was actually doing a Facebook group. I was blown away that like Facebook groups get like 10 times the engagement of a page, at least in my case it did. And the moment I made a Facebook group, I was able to like build an audience much more quickly and do it, without having to spend a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, no, these are really awesome nuggets. And I'm so glad that the stuff I was saying was helping you. So thank you for saying that. I really can't believe that you haven't built like a landing page or a funnel before, because I saw your landing page and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to record this, like going through this landing page because it's beautiful. So kudos to you.
Thank you. It was very simple, but yeah, I mean, I've worked with people who have, but yeah, it wasn't, I don't know. I see a lot of, ways I could improve it, but thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. So with the advertising, let's kind of dig into that a little bit, because a lot of people kind of have problems with that, with not only the messaging testing that you were doing, but also kind of setting things up. Can you walk us through how you approached the testing? Was it A/B testing for just the images? Was it just the headlines? Can you kind of talk us through that?
Yeah. So what I set up just in Facebook Business Manager, if people are familiar with that, that's just the interface you can run ads on Facebook. So I set up a few conversion campaigns. I always think conversion campaigns are the best way to go. Like some people will say, oh, do like a traffic campaign. Well, traffic campaigns optimize for, clicks. They don't optimize for people who are actually going to take action. And so I also did, this is before your word of warning on the group. I also tested doing a lead campaign on Facebook. Terrible idea. It was such a waste of money. Because but luckily I didn't actually spend that much on it before I shut it off. But lead campaigns, basically, like, it's the lowest barrier to entry. It just gets people to input their email right on Facebook. But a lot of times these people like are not interested in taking action at all. So my first piece of advice would be set up conversion campaigns. And then what I did was I just tested different thumbnails and different titles. So in these conversion campaigns, I'd have, just make sure you're testing one variable at a time, but I'd make sure I was testing like 5 different thumbnails with all the same headline. And then I tested 5 different headlines with kind of that winning thumbnail. So, and then that way I was able to see like what imagery made people click and then what titles made people click. And I measured it by the cost per email collection. So on the worst side of things, it was like $3-4 per email. And then on the best, it was like 50 cents. So it was like significantly better and cheaper, depending on the message and the image I used.
That's amazing that you got a cost per email for 50 cents. Wow. I would just blow that right out of the water. So with that said, so can you talk more about, you were saying, you tested 5 different messages with a thumbnail. That kind of the messaging that you were saying you were testing. How did you come up with these messaging? How did you approach writing out the 5 different ones? Because a lot of people do have a lot of trouble with that.
Yeah. So this is what we try and do at Harmon Brothers is it's incredible how many times we're wrong. It's just like the messages or the headlines or whatever it is we think is going to do best oftentimes doesn't. It's always like the like weird other kind of language that does best. So it is a guessing game to some extent, but I just tested just 5 different, just made sure they were very different messages. I just made sure I just brainstormed, okay, this one makes me laugh, this one makes you laugh, this one's more clear, this one's like maybe a little more edgy, I don't know. So just make sure you have a lot of options, and especially make sure that you have options that you don't necessarily think will win. Because it's surprising, what does win out. I would issue a word of warning though. We've had it just at Harmon Brothers. We've tested things before that were like, oh, this is totally a bait and switch title, or it's like contrary to the brand, and sometimes those win. So I would say don't test anything unless you're willing to go with that thing, or it's just gonna be a waste of time and money.
Yeah, that's really good advice for sure. And with all this testing, so you came up with a card game for immature people, is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. And how did you end up using, I guess, the image that did the best, right? And also the headline that did the best. Where did you end up putting those things in your campaign?
Yeah, so in my campaign, the image that did the best was the one that we actually put on Kickstarter. And so that was our product image. The second image that did the best was actually just if you're familiar with our cover, it's just the exploding toilet, and it says Poopocalypse. So that's actually what made our cover. We realized, oh man, this actually is really sticky for people, and it's pretty simple. And simpler covers can do better on Amazon and stuff like that. So that's kind of what that made its way to the cover of our game.
And how about the card game for immature people? Was that in your headline for the Kickstarter, or was it
okay. Yeah, headline for Kickstarter and for the actual game.
Okay. That's awesome. A lot of people don't really understand, how all the testing that you do in the Facebook part and the pre-launch part, how that translates into a full campaign. So I'm glad that you saw, what was working and just put everything on your campaign, and you saw really great results. You raised a ton of money for the campaign.
Yeah, much more than I was, expecting. So very grateful for, yeah.
Yeah, and one other thing I wanted to touch for the pre-launch before we kind of move to the campaign part of it. You mentioned your Facebook group; it had 10 times more engagement than a page. What kind of content were you releasing? Were you dropping? What kind of things were you doing in there?
Was I plopping
Yep.
on the page? Was I just steaming content? Yeah, just a bunch of just crap, just a bunch of crap. I mean, for me, what I've learned is like, at first I was approaching it more like I want to make sure everything's perfect, that it looks the best. What I realized is that you'll delay growing if you just wait until everything's perfect. And so what I realized was I needed to document the journey more. Just post things as I went along, like, steps in the process. Here's a prototype I took with my phone. Here's, some cards. I found ways of easily photoshopping the cards to make them look a little more polished. But I would give that as advice, like, guys, don't be perfectionistic. Just post as you go along, document. People are interested in the journey.
Love it. Love it. A lot of the creators I talk about too in game design or in any other category, they're just like, oh, but Coca-Cola has all this, like, these beautiful pictures, like, oh, this hardware project that has been around for 30 years has all these polished things that they're posting. I'm like, well, guys, we're going to Kickstarter, we're going to Indiegogo, we're going to crowdfunding. It's okay to not be perfect. So I love that you're mentioning that for the group.
Yeah. That being said, like, getting a really, like, pristine image for your product shot, I think, pays for itself multiples. So do spend a little time making that look polished, but along the way, don't worry about it.
Absolutely. Okay. So now that we're, kind of got all these emails in the pre-launch stage, was there anything you did in particular on, the days leading up to launch, like those 3 days before launch and on launch day that kind of really helped you kind of skyrocket during the campaign?
Yeah, so I partnered with Backerkit for ad spend, which I think we tracked a little over a third of all our revenue from ads. So really, I'd say that's really important. Just like I went with Backerkit because they already have such a huge email list of gamers, and they just have targeting down to a T, and they can sustainably get like a 3 ROAS or return on ad spend. So that worked really well for me. I would say, guys, if you don't like, I didn't want to manage my own ads. I think it would have been too much of a roller coaster for me. And having the expertise of working with Backerkit was huge. Second thing, I hadn't heard of other people doing this before, but I just kind of like, my whole strategy was just throw a bunch of things at the wall and see what sticks. I partnered with some influencer people, just some friends of mine. They gave me some shout outs. I didn't track hardly anything from those though. But the thing that did work out was I talked to brands that kind of fit in my world I was building. So in Poopocalypse, it's this, very poop, fun, magical kind of theme. And brands like Squatty Potty and Dude Wipes and actually Harmon Brothers, they kind of all fit in that category. And so what I did is I reached out to those brands and I said, in exchange for an email blast or two, I'd love to feature one of your, you as a card in the game. And so there's a Squatty Potty card that allows you to poop twice as fast and lay down two poops at a time. the dude wipes card, they're like, bathroom wipes. You can wipe away someone else's card in the game. So they kind of like fit in the world, and it didn't feel too corporate and it didn't feel too like gross. And so that was huge. When we launched, Squatty Potty sent an email out to 200,000 people on their list, and Dude Wipes, I think they had about 80,000 at least active users. So so it was a big boost towards the beginning of the campaign.
Well, that's really, honestly, really clever that you were able to take the theme and kind of the content and approach people so that they could actually you can leverage their kind of audience, but also have them be featured in your game. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was pleased that it worked out that way. And I mean, for them, it was a win because they get like long tail. They'll be in the base game. Hopefully, be in thousands of homes. And then for me, it's like, well, I don't have an audience to start, and they're already, into the poop thing. So
that's awesome.
Win-win.
So yeah, this was kind of the first few days of the campaign. Can you tell us more about the marketing you did for the rest of the campaign? Because a lot of people, see slowdowns in the campaign and they kind of freak out. What kind of things did you do to kind of keep things going?
Yeah, so I got a lot of help from Jeff Beck and Leslie Pearson. So Jeff does Grab Beck's games. Leslie does Taco versus Burrito, and she just did a Kickstarter a few months ago for a new update to Old Maid called Bold Maid. It did like 170K or something. Anyway, so they kind of helped me through this. And Leslie told me, so I was planning on coming out with 2 expansions over the campaign. And I was planning on launching with both of them. So you had number 2, the explosive expansion. And then the second one was Magic the Splattering, the fantasy expansion. And so I was planning on launching both right out the gate, having different tiers. Leslie told me, she's like, Jonny, the middle of the campaign is the slump. Just wait to announce Magic the Splattering. And then people can upgrade if they want to. And it will give you things to work on with people in the middle of the campaign in that dead time. And so that's what we did. We just saved it. And so in the middle, then we actually had a big announcement to make. People, like, it got the most engagement out of anything we ever posted was like the teasing question, like, should we do it? Should we not? I was totally planning on doing it. But like Kickstarter people, they love to like have a say. They love to be part of the process. And so definitely recommend teasing, and definitely recommend like saving an ace up your sleeve for the middle of the campaign if you want something to like keep the momentum going.
Got it. That's really awesome. I remember that in the group that you were kind of really slowly releasing out this the splattering like artwork, and then you were kind of asking questions about it, and then it all of a sudden became like a big thing on the page.
Yeah. So totally feels contrived now, but they ate it up, so it was great.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about that you worked with Backerkit for the advertising. You did a lot of influencer shout outs with relevant brands in the space, and you also worked with people to really structure what you did for the kind of crowdfunding valley of death time period where things slowed down. Was there any other marketing things that you did for the campaign that you wanted to touch on?
Let's see. I experimented with, there's this company called Kick Booster. Mm-hmm. You can link your Kickstarter campaign to it, and then you can have other people like share their own personal link, and then they get like a percentage of like a rev share type thing. Mm-hmm. I experimented with that just a little bit, just with some people. I'm like, hey, would you, because there's no upfront cost to it. It's just if you can bring more backers and if you can bring them cheaper than Facebook, great. It didn't really work out too well. I think, it has to probably, if the influencers were more like relevant to Poop, maybe it would have done a lot better. But so I played around with Kick Booster. I also tried to do a little, this is something I wished I would have done earlier. I was just so busy in the middle that I let it kind of slip to the wayside. But you can do cross promotions in your updates where you can reach out to other creators who maybe have like $60,000 raised or a few thousand backers, and maybe a little bit further along than you are. And you can ask them if they want to do a cross promotion. Then at the end of your next update to your backers, you can say, P.S. here's another game where we've backed, and then do a link to their campaign with a little picture. I did that for a game that I backed and looked really cool. I just forgot to follow up with them to do it for me. So you can tell like I was totally like had all the time in the world. So. But I actually would recommend doing that. Like, that's a great way of organically, like, getting more Kickstarter followers. They're already pre-screened. Like, these are people who already back games on Kickstarter, and it's literally free. And there's a lot of people that you aren't going to get otherwise. So I would just look for similar games that are live on Kickstarter that maybe are a little bit further along than you are. Doesn't have to be. And then you just direct message them on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I really love that, especially since you already have kind of that rapport in a way with that other creator, because you did back their campaign too. And so you're just kind of sharing audiences and saying, hey, you guys like this game, you might like this other game too.
Right. Yeah, I wish I would have followed up, but whatever.
Well, there's always round two.
Round two.
Okay, so out of all this, what do you think was kind of the most effective marketing method for your campaign?
Yeah, so definitely build your Facebook group early. I only built it a month before, and that was a huge boon for the campaign. Doing the email collection, there were a lot of people that didn't convert from the 3,000 emails, obviously, but there were quite a few that did. So I'd recommend doing that before as well. I'd also recommend, I'm sorry, these aren't as well, staggered. I would just say, get an ad buying partner. Because like I said before, 30% of our total revenue came from that. And then if you can find ways of, I'm just spewing everything. Yeah, I'd say those are the main ones.
No, this is great. It's great because it's just bottom line, what should people do pretty much? Because a lot of people want to learn what is effective, because you really tested a ton of things for your own project. So this is great.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of dig in a little bit about Backerkit before we go, because a lot of people have been asking about that. What kind of requirements did they ask from you before you guys started engagement? Was there a minimum? Was there a percentage that they take? Things like that, because a lot of people do want to work with Backerkit, but they don't really know how.
Yeah. So I was introduced via Leslie Pearson. If anybody's interested in being connected to Backerkit, I just reach out to me and I can connect you as well. But I think if we connect you, I think if you go through their funnel, it's not as good of a deal. But if you have a connection, you get a better deal. That's what Leslie told me. So, anyways, so I think the terms are, I think you have to have, I don't remember if it was a $2,000 deposit or something like that. But then they'll pay for ad spend the entire campaign, and then you just pay them from your Kickstarter, what you raise at the end of the campaign. And then they take 15% of all tracked pledges. So the nice part about ad spend is, they're not going to be able to track everything that they drive. So you'll get more pledges coming in, and then you'll get a bunch more pledges just by nature of being up in the Kickstarter algorithm. But you only have to pay the 15% on the direct tracked pledges to Backerkit.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's really good to know, because a lot of people, again, don't know about the deposit. They don't know about the percentage. So this is really great. And I also work a lot with Backerkit, and definitely there's better deals out there if you actually know someone who works with Backerkit. So that's spot on, I would say. Cool. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Jonny, and sharing with us all these insights. Where, if people want to, continue supporting you or finding you, where can they find out about Poopocalypse? Where can they reach you? Things like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty active on Facebook. You can just look me up, Jonny Vance, or look up Poopocalypse on Facebook. Join our group. Be part of the crappy conversation. I'm also more active on LinkedIn, surprisingly. So if you want to hang out or follow some of my marketing posts, just look me up on LinkedIn. And then in terms of if you want the game, we're shooting to have it on Amazon in November. So you can fill someone's stocking with a steaming Yule log if that's your thing, or if you need to punish someone. one of the two. They're naughty or nice.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you again for coming to the show, and I know everyone's going to love what you have to say about this, because this was a really great campaign, and you just put a lot of energy behind it, and I myself love following along what you were doing.
Thank you. You're too kind, and thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Board Game Marketing Podcast. For daily tips and advice, find us in the Board Game Marketing group on Facebook. See you next week.